Okay, good evening, dear member of the Dean's Board of IBMHS, Ms. Spilman, dear representatives of the State Dual University DHBW, Mr. Fisher and Professor Wilding, dear Kala, dear and respected guests. My name is Teodora Bошкова, and I am Head of Public Relations at the Institute for Business and Management Heidelberg in Skopje. And it's quite the pleasure of mine to open today's very special event dedicated on the topic of dual higher education, the future of young people. The event is organized within the frame of the Global Entrepreneurship Week, which each year is reaching more than 180 countries and millions of people through local, national, and global events and activities. And this week is brought to us by Startup Macedonia and the organizers. This year was a year of new beginnings for the Heidelberg Institute and the team. And it was the year where we firmly walked the path of creating the first German dual higher education institution for the countries of the Western Balkans, or the Heidelberg faculty in Skopje. We had a working summer introducing the model created for and from the companies. And I have the chance to officially share the news stating that the Heidelberg faculty in Skopje received a decision to grant approval from the government of the Republic of North Macedonia to be established. And this was in September 13th this year. So stating this, from the next academic year, or the year 2023-24, this higher education institution will have a unique approach to integrate the theory and the practice, and to follow the example of the State Dual University of Mannheim, and under their mentorship and their involvement with programs, with educational staff, and anything relevant to guarantee the quality and the duality of these studies. At the same time, we are talking about 3 undergraduate studies that we are starting next year. The first one is targeting the business administration field, or the banking, the insurance, and the controlling sector. Then we have software engineering, which is connected to the IT world, or data and computer science. And last but not least, mechatronics. Stating these 3 undergraduate studies for 2023, 90 high school graduates will have the opportunity to be enrolled in bachelor studies, where they will work and study at the same time with mentors who are practitioners and who have many years of experience in the industry, to follow academic teaching and teachers, and to work in companies that will invest in the students and in their future. Now it is my pleasure to invite Dr. Briџit Spilman officially. She is the member of the Dean's Board of the Heidelberg Institute in Skopje, also a trainer, coach, and lecturer in international cross-culture coaching for businesses and business people. Ms. Spilman, the floor is only yours for the next couple of minutes.
Thank you, Tia, for this friendly introduction of my person. So I'm very glad to be part of this interview and to have the chance to speak about the connection between a German and a North Macedonian, how do you say, educational institution, which was at first the IBMHS, founded in 2018, and the ABIT, a faculty for banking and information technology in North Macedonia. So I would say, in the name of the Dean of the IBMHS, I'm very glad to have found this partner, or the board is very happy, because we got the possibility to establish a new kind of education, which was, or is at the moment, very, very successful in Germany. And we have experience in this field since in Germany, for example, since the last 20 years. And so it was a good luck for everybody that Professor Dr. Zeitl, which is the Dean of the ABMHS, Professor Ronald Gleich, who is a professor for controlling the Frankfurt faculty of Frankfurt School of Finance, and Professor Sinisha Naumowski, who is the CEO of ABIT. And maybe I can ask you, Mr. Naumowski, what do you think about the start of the cooperation between IBMHS and ABIT? And just give us a glimpse how the development of this cooperation is going on, and that we had, how do you say, a small path to get into the role where we have now. Happily, we are possible to present now a Heidelberg faculty of Skopje, and this was a long way to this. Maybe just a few words, and afterwards I will say something about the positive aspects I see in this cooperation, and maybe the former cooperation with the DHBW, the corporate state university of Baden-Wittenberg, which is our main goal for the next month.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bridget. A few words I will say this night, because it's not my stage. I had stage in ABIT, First Macedonian Banking Academy, but from my point of view, as a representative of Academy Council, ABIT, or Academy of Banking and Information Technology, is a real dual institution in Macedonia, more than 8.5 years. So this experience will be very useful for our next steps, our goals with DHBW. And finally, after the 5 years fighting here in Macedonia, we will have a faculty, Heidelberg faculty in Skopje. So regards from my side, and you have a nice evening.
Thank you so much, Professor Naumowski. So at the moment we have already practical exercises in the IBMHS in our programs, but these are held from practitioners and not from professors from a higher educational standard. So that it will be really a perfect situation for interested students in North Macedonia to get now in contact with the institution who is able to offer a dual higher education. So with two degrees at the end, Mr. Torge Fishel will explain us exactly what it means. A German degree and a Macedonian degree as a bachelor degree. And this is a win-win situation for, in my eyes, for everybody. So maybe after Mr. Torge has explained what the further cooperation could present to the students, I will speak about my experiences, which I already had in my company with students in dual studies, the advantages and disadvantages, not so many disadvantages, but advantages for the students and the companies. So I would like to give the word to Mr. Torge Fishel, if Thea is goes the same way as I do.
Thank you, Madam. Mr. Fisher, yes, I only wanted to add your title of Cooperative Education Consult. It's an honor to have you here with us, sir, and we are excited to hear more about DHBW, your practices so far, and absolutely the advantages or the benefits for the students and for the companies on both sides.
Yes, thank you very much, both Thea and Ms. Spilman, for having me. I would like to present a little bit about what cooperative higher education is all about. I know that in the context of Macedonia and Skopje, this is probably not well known yet. We are working on making it better known. This is our goal, but let me share a few slides with you and a little introduction, and then probably all of you know exactly what cooperative higher education is all about. So about myself, to put myself into context, I'm managing director at Cooperative Education Consult. This is a 100% subsidiary of the DHBW Foundation. And at the same time, I also work for DHBW in the headquarters of international relations. So now I've confronted you with two institutions, and but let's start and have a look at what DHBW is. DHBW is the abbreviation for Duale Hochschule Baden-Württemberg, or in English, you would say Baden-Württemberg Cooperative State University. And the cooperative part of this name is due to us working together with 9,000 companies. And it is also due to us offering work-integrated learning. And this term, work-integrated learning, is the same as cooperative education or dual education. So what this means is we integrate practical training phases at companies, at those 9,000 companies, and students learn on the job, and at the same time, or in cycles, they also learn at the university. Going back to our name, State University, the state is due to us having 9 campuses on the one side, but also us being a state-funded public university. So what is work-integrated learning? It's not just that you, as you see on the slide, that you do internships in companies, that you at the same time study at the university. The very important part of it is that it is those practical training phases, they are an integrated part of our curriculum. So you're not just going to work, but what you learn on the job is corresponding to what you learn in the theory phases or in the theoretic academic work at the university. And cooperative higher education focuses very much on employability of students. So our prior goal is that students, when they graduate, are employable. The skill set that students learn is directed towards what the industry demands of the students. You might know that from traditional universities who are focusing very much on research and on academic competence, which is all good, but oftentimes those study degrees which have a very theoretic basis, they are not suitable necessarily for what the industry is demanding of the students. And thereby, many of the students are experiencing problems to find a suitable job, something that matches their study. Our students, from the very start, they are employees of one company. So even at the start of the first day of studies, they already know that they are employed by one company, and all their practical phases throughout the studies are with the same company. Not within the same department. Normally the students go from one department to another, but within the same company. And even also after graduation, they continue to work with the same company. So cooperative higher education integrates practical training at the company into the study degree, and each semester is divided into a theory phase and a practical phase. And thereby, students go 6 times to work with a company and go 6 times for 3 months to work to study at university. Very importantly is this cyclic movement from the classroom to the company. When I studied many years ago, I look back at 12 years of high school and 6 years of university in one row. So that accumulates to 18 years of learning. And I never had a chance to apply what I've learned in between. So after 18 years of studying, I don't know anyone who's able to apply those 18 years of theoretic learning. It's impossible. And that's the concept of dual studies or cooperative education. What you do is you learn something in theory, And shortly after, you get a chance to apply and to experiment with this knowledge in the workplace. And then 3 months later, you come back to the classroom and you have a chance to reflect upon your experiences in the company. So you apply what you learn and you reflect upon what you learn in the company. And very important, each semester students learn some different skills, both in theory and in the company. And usually this experience in the company matches the knowledge that you have acquired during the theory phase. I mean, this was a very, very brief introduction to how cooperative higher education works because of the limited time frame of today. But I think it gives you some insight of the core idea of cooperative higher education. Now let's look at some of the main advantages. From a student perspective, our students are very high achievers in their companies. Because of this knowledge that you're not only getting from the theory phase, but you also get knowledge and skill sets from the company, you, by the time that your fellow classmates from high school who have been going to traditional universities, when they are employed by the same company, they have no network with the company, they have no knowledge of how different departments of the company work. So they have to start from scratch. But you already, by the time you graduate from a dual or a cooperative higher education degree, you already have 3 years within the company. You already have knowledge about how things work, who's important, who's responsible for what. So you know all these things. And this leads to, and there's some research done on our graduates, this leads to our students to achieve higher management position within the company and to reach higher salaries at the same age level. If we look at the company perspective, companies take a part in these degrees. They design, together with the university, they design those degrees. And this leads to a unique model of talent retention for the companies. I mean, today and nowadays times, everybody's talking about skills shortages in the economy. All good businesses, they lack talented young people who are fit for the job that the companies provide. And in dual education is a very unique way of overcoming this problem, because companies are given a chance to socialize young talents from an early age on, and to really train them to do the skill or to do the job that the company needs to be done. So they benefit from an excellent performance of our students. The costs of training those young talents is not higher than to hire other students on the market, and I think this is a great chance also for the companies. Closing this very small presentation, I'd like to say that I look very much forward to assist and to train all stakeholders and to establish this system of cooperative higher education in Skopje. And I know that at IBMHS, we have some very good and strong people who are striving forward this project. And I'm very confident that we will have a good and solid study program starting next summer. So thank you very much for having me today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fisher, for the explanation and for the great presentation, which really catches the moment of the unique proposition of the model and what are the benefits for the country as we are adopting the model, as we're speaking. Thank you once again. And I would like to continue next with Professor Kei Wailding. He is representing Rector Nagle, who is rector of DHBW-Mannheim and who unfortunately couldn't join us today. But speaking more about Professor Kei Wailding, He's an Emeritus Dean of Studies in Electrical Engineering at DHBW-Mannheim, but also he's an international academic advisor who can tell us more on the practical basis on the side of the dual studies. Professor Wilding, thank you for being here with us.
Okay, do you see my slides?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yes, good evening. Thank you for the chance to give you some information about the competences who are important. And also I'm from the university, I will focus more on the practical side and on the company side. So give you an impression, what is the demand of the companies in the first slide and the result of the studies in the last slide, where I'm slowly getting in. So the practical parts are the main focus. Okay, which qualifications of graduates of higher education institutions are needed by the industry? You know, in the future, there will be a high need for high qualified personnel, which need a lot of skills. They should have an age of beginning of 20. They have to have a good education on university level. They should have good practical experiences, having experiences abroad. They should have the ability to act efficiently at the companies. And they have, and that's my main focus, I would focus on the good social competences, which are quite important. And if you see, they are now in the age of 20, it seems to be impossible. But we did it since nearly 50 years, that the young graduates of universities are able to act efficiently with experiences in practical work life, practical applications in foreign countries in the age of 20 to 22. I have a lot of graduates you will see in the last slide. Okay, let's focus on the different styles of university. Also, I'm coming from the engineering department. I think it's similar in the business department. This slide is from Dr. Huneau from Siemens. He did it in 2004 and focused on the different competences. In the vertical, you see the theoretical competences, which should be higher and higher if you're going to a university. Special level should be here in the middle, on the which goes through here in the middle of the slide. On the other side, we have a lot of practical experiences and competence who are needed. And if you're going to the university, which is here the brown ones, they are more focused on the theoretical competences than on the practical competences. Some practical competence are needed for people who work at the companies, but they are not so intensive for the people from the university. Then the people or the students who are coming from the University of Applied Sciences, which is more application oriented. Sorry? Okay, go on. And you see the blue one, which is not that deep. You did not have the basic research knowledge as you have at the university. While you're studying 5 or 7 years at the university, you get a lot more basic knowledge for research. But people at the University of Applied Sciences and the Cooperative State University, they know how to transfer the theoretical knowledge into the practice. And you see, these are all the styles which are needed at the company. Research and development and basic research, that's only 5% of the university graduates who are working there. And most of the engineers are working here in that part. And this is of the focus we are focusing on with our studies. Okay. You see, that's the skills or the soft skills of the graduates, which is asked by the companies. On the left side, you see the method competences or methodical competences like learning, analyzing, designing, planning, decision-making, and organizing. That's you will learn at the university, I think. You learn the language skills. You learn the basic of business administration. Sorry for the mistakes I translated. It was an official slide from the VDE, that's the German Society for Electrical Engineering. And so I transferred that into English. So some small mistakes. So, okay, basic of business administration and thinking of legal terms, which is also important for the engineer who's later working in the companies. On the right side, you see more the social competences. It's the team, the ability to work in a team, the communication skills, which are often needed by the students if they're coming from the school and starting at the university. I see it's a big lack here in Germany, and also on my experience in Palestine. We're still working on that. Next is the adapting, taking the initiative that the students are the graduates are working can just start at the business and go on and do their work. Working in networks, they have to have the communication skills, work with colleagues, lower level and higher level. So they have to work very efficiently in the company. They have to have a mutual understanding of all people, of the customer, of the lower members of the company, of the boss. So they have a quite good feeling for that. And what's quite important today is the intercultural skills, which are necessary nowadays to work worldwide. And the next big part is the entrepreneurial thinking. So you have to motivate others, you have to think in global strategically, you have to focus on the customer, on the result, and you have to do coaching and mentoring. And if you focus on that, you see, where will you learn that? And this is the left side, you will learn in theory at the university. Learning, analyzing, that's typical for learning. But teamwork, communication skills, you can learn it theoretical at the university, but you have to train it on work. You have to live this parts. And I think that's very important, especially intercultural skills. You can learn the basics at the university, but you have to work on it. And so this one is learned in the 3 months in the practical parts, while the left side is learned more in the theoretical part at the university. And both together builds the graduate, which is working quite efficiently at the company. Okay, that was the start. That's the end. You see, that's the job title. I looked into Xing or in these social networks and tried to find my graduates who have studied with me in electrical engineering, what they are working now. And you think electrical engineer, he always should work as an electrical engineer or automation engineer. This should be typical. But as you see, automation engineer, software engineer, okay, that's right. But training manager, he's working in the training department, working with students, with the new graduate students who are going to our university. Then you have the installation engineers for high voltage systems, developer, okay, that's quite right. But then they're going up to a head of application test center. I have a graduate who is a plant manager for a tractor factory because he learned all this practical stuffs at the university. And as a manager, you have to work with people. Not only the theoretical knowledge is important, you have to work with all people. Next one is Vice President Development. The next one is, we are talking about electrical engineers. It's the Manager Center of Excellent SAP, Europe, Middle East, and Africa. He was a power engineering student, which are not that focused on IT, but now he's working for SAP worldwide. I met him half a year ago. So he grew up from just the basic knowledge in theoretical base, but you can go on into the IT sector. But the main part, he managed it to become this person, is the practical part. Okay, portfolio manager, energy supply company. So it's a portfolio manager. It's not more technical. He needs technical management skills, but the management part is very important. Okay, then you see the business development manager for process analytics for whole Germany. We have a global product manager or manager director. He grew up with a company 10 years ago, and every year he doubled his members of the company, and he started with 2 persons, and now he's about 256 persons and spread all over the world. You see, that's the result of our studies. We asked for the first slide, the demand, and here's the result. Okay, thank you very much.
this practical perspective as well, and especially the fact of earning soft skills through formal education, which should be included in the undergraduate studies. I would also like to request if anyone has questions or comments to leave them on the Facebook Live or to use the chat icon on Zoom, or raise a hand if you have a question to directly approach any of our guest speakers. And in the meantime, I will also ask any of the guest speakers if they have any other remarks regarding the dual studies and the dual courses.
I think it was a very comprehensive introduction to the studies with these 3 presentations. So we could use several hours for that, but I hope you got a small introduction in the main parts of the dual studies.
Absolutely. This is just the beginning of a wonderful collaboration between the 2 institutions, potentially. And of course, just the beginning of campaigning this model and the benefits of it, but also wanting to integrate more and more people and companies involved in the processes. Ms. Spilman, do you have something to add here?
Yes, I highly agree with the information Professor Wailing gave us. I would like to add that the advantages from the point of view of a company to have a dual student in your row is that you got a high motivated employee from the first day on, because he or she had made a conscious decision for a certain field of studies, and additionally for the company. And this is really a good issue for how do you say, managers of a company, to see that somebody has a concrete plan for his professional career. And this makes it very easy for us to support them. So the next is that you get highly qualified employees afterwards, as Professor Wailing said. So it's very, it's highly needed in our companies to have employees like this, knowing the field of working in the company and the many problems and situations around the working space of a company had studied and trained. And the company as well benefits from this higher level of knowledge of the students. It's a win-win situation. Disadvantage is that often the students leave the companies after the contract which they had negotiated with the companies end. So you have to say it from my perspective that this is one of the negative aspects from my side as a manager in a company. On the other side, it's, how do you say, it's a good card or a good impression which your company gets in the competitive market, that you have employees which are needed by other companies. So you see, it's quite, there are 2 phases from the side of a manager in a company, but the positive aspects are much higher than the negative ones. From the student point of view, I could say I have some students in my company where we had a dual educational program. So they say they have no holiday times, because if you are a student in a state university, you have the breaks between the semesters or trimesters, which are very long. You can work, you can earn money, but I can say you don't have a lot of time for private aspects, but you earn money. That's a fact which wasn't mentioned yet, because normally the company pays you for your work in the companies. And that's very important for students who want to earn their own money and having a life beside the house of their parents. So these are many aspects beside this dual student program. And I'm convinced that the North Macedonian students will be very interested in this program because it's really new. And I would like to hear what Kala means. Kala, our student, and Thea, maybe you introduce her for us. I'm really interested what you think about the program. Now you heard everything from us.
Hey everyone, Kala Дренковска. I'm a student in one of the top high schools in North Macedonia, Орце Николов. I'm an ambitious, dedicated, and hardworking student, and I'm interested in natural sciences especially, and I'm looking forward to become an active subject and factor in building of the future society. I'm a senior student, and I have a lot to say about my experience in the last 4 years. I'm a part of a generation which was able to go through the high school process, both from the school desk and home behind the monitors. And I can say that I chose my high school because I estimated that is the place where I can get the best education, and while being surrounded with people that are as aspiring as I am. The teachers who will be open and happy to share their knowledge and push us to do our best. So these are same applies now from the decision making about university, and I always make selections based on my own evaluation, trying to find the best opportunities for myself. These now are crucial decisions because our whole future depends on them, and I think that if I was given a chance to study in my own country while getting a valuable degree, that will be no better way to continue my education while helping the country that I grew up in and the people in need. So we all have an open horizon for a brighter future. In my belief, the greatest cause for immigrating students is that the collective opinion on the education system here is that we don't have enough renowned professors, and the reputation of the main university is not as good as the other universities around the world. But in my belief, if we work together in this case, in just a few years, we can start making changes and push everything forward, because this is our motherland and the language is native. Our roots belong here, and I think that we're all obligated to make it a better place. I think about the practical work that you spoke of. I think that is an essential part, especially for natural sciences, where it is necessary to demonstrate every experiment, and instead of memorizing all the examples and observation steps like we do, for example, how the solution will be colored or how the machines work, I think that it is better and much more effective if we were able to see it all in front of us. Yeah, of course, we need to learn the theoretical part, but the practice is as much as important as the theory. So we're all looking forward to help implement this part of the study process, and we will appreciate it very much if we have the ability to test everything as we learn it. One way of doing this may be starting to work while studying, dual learning, which is a new learning framework that leverages the primary dual structure of artificial intelligence task and to obtain effective feedback while learning. And I hope that this type of education can be brought in Macedonia along with the international experience in these fields.
Thank you, Kala. It was wonderful to hear the opinion of the youth, of our potential students, since you're a graduate now of high school. To hear to feel the energy actually of wanting to see that change finally. So it was great to hear from your side, and it's a pleasure to have you as a friend of the Heidelberg Institute and later the Heidelberg faculty in Skopje. Connecting with the topic, I have a question in the chat to any of the speakers, asking how would you explain the difference of dual study in secondary school level and the university education level. So to divide what is dual education in high schools and dual education in universities. Mr. Fisher?
Yes, I can take this. I think any of the speakers will be able to answer this. I think there's several main differences.
So, Mr. Fisher, it's the right question maybe for you to explain a little bit more, because we had some kind of collision between AHK and Heidelberg. It's an interesting question. Thank you, Suada, for the question. So maybe the right persons from DHBW.
Yes. Well, I mean, the number one difference is very obvious, and which is already the wording inside the question, because what we know or what is already in place by the Chamber of Commerce is vocational training and vocational training on secondary level. This is, I mean, quite different to cooperative higher education, because it is what we offer is a university degree. The whole setup is different as well. When you talk about vocational training, usually both practical and theoretical learning go side by side. There's less of phases, but there's more like within the same week or within the same month that you learn both. However, of course, vocational training has this dual nature as we have it on higher education level. But the difference is that when you do vocational training, you end up with a non-academic degree. With cooperative higher education, you end up with a bachelor's degree. So even though we and the companies aim that you will be employed by the same company after graduation, that you work within the same industry, as a student, you're still free because you have a bachelor's degree, which you can use in any other company, and which you can use which is parallel in, or is at the same level as a bachelor's degree from a traditional university. So I think there's quite some difference. The level is different. The academic expectation of us as a university is different. So you will need to learn academically. You will need to do research while you're studying. So your academic or what you can expect academically is at the same level as with traditional universities. And what the companies expect of you is much higher than a vocational degree as well. So I think that explains most of this. Besides this, I want to elaborate one more aspect that might be in, well, there might be questions with some of our listeners, even though they are not, one of the questions they might not be writing or saying, is that, you know, this has not been done yet in Skopje. This is the first time something new will start in Skopje. And students might be wondering whether it's a good idea to be the first batch of students starting with this. And of course, asking yourself this is relevant, because you have no, you know, if you go to Harvard, you can rely on hundreds of years of excellent education. When you start something like this, you cannot rely on this. What you can rely on is that DHBW, a university which has been running these programs for nearly 50 years, is supporting this program, is running quality audits. And we as an institution have also experience in establishing this degree in different countries. And in all, well, and Professor Wilding has been doing this in Palestine. I've been doing it in China and elsewhere. And our experience there in those countries is that even the first batch of students studying in a new established dual education or a dual university, they have all been successfully taken over by the companies. They have they all look back on successful careers. So I think this might be an important aspect to most of our listeners today.
May I add something to the difference between dual studies in the secondary level and the third level? On the secondary level, you learn how to do the work. On the third level, you learn why it is done on that way. So it's more the basics, the background of the work, which is analyzed by the graduate who has a university study.
Great, thank you. Ms. Spilman, do you have something to add? Or I would ask any of the speakers if you have something to add, because we need to wrap up real soon to keep the time frame of the event.
No, I agree completely with the two speakers before me, and I thanks Mr. Fisher to mention this this aspect. It's really a step forward for the students in dark atmosphere for them, but in our sense, it's a light atmosphere. You know, you can push your career by studying in a dual study program much more than studying on a state university without having any practice. When you are 28 years old, you finish your studies and you apply for a job in a company, and you don't have practical experiences. So it's a good program. So we offer really good things.
We surely do. Thank you, Ms. Spilman, and thank you everyone for the presentation, for sharing your experiences, for sharing your thoughts, for being involved in this process, which is just really big, and we will see the results in some time. Thank you, everybody, on behalf of the Heidelberg team, the Heidelberg team in Skopje and in Germany. Thank you to Startup Macedonia and the organizers of the Global Entrepreneurship Week in the country. I would also like to announce the next steps, which are that by the end of the year, we are planning the grand ceremonial opening of the campus of the Heidelberg faculty in Skopje, and to also officialize the contracts with now the potential dual partners in the studies. We're truly excited, and we're looking forward to the upcoming period and the official start of the studies. Stay tuned for news and for updates on the process of adapting this new model, as well as for the open call for students and for companies. I would like to close the event with our team's motto, starting that together we can accomplish everything that we want, and only together we can make the change that we want to see in the world, or be that change. Together we can. Have a good evening.